And welcome back to The Price of Business. This is Sigmund Kramer. Yes, that same Sigmund Kramer that Kevin had such nice things to say about in the last segment. Well, this is the last segment of today's program, but we want you to stay tuned. I've got Chris Kidd, wonderful advisor to sports heroes, to people in general who really need a good guide when it comes to what to do with their money. And Chris has been a contributor here at The Price of Business for quite a while. Chris, good to see you again, buddy.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So I hear you have a very special guest that you've got for us today. Who's that?
Yeah, and it's an interesting topic as well. My guest today is Reid Hart. He's an attorney from Florida. He's actually a award-winning, nationally recognized lawyer from there. He has a award-winning blog and podcast called Courts and Sports. And we're going to be talking about gambling and sports and some of the things that are going on there.
Very cool. Reid, hey, thanks so much and welcome to the program.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no problem. Now, Chris, before we get in with Reid, why don't you just real quick give an elevator speech about what you do?
Well, basically what I do is I teach people how to make their money work a little bit harder, dealing with their personal finances, getting out of debt, learning to become more sophisticated investors so they don't have to rely on hope. And also, if they're not entrepreneurs yet, I teach people how to get into the entrepreneurial mode. And, I believe everybody needs their own business in one form or another.
No doubt. And it sounds like, Reid, you've got your own business in one form or another. You've got a couple. Tell us about you and your business.
Yeah, down here in Jacksonville, Florida. I work at a law firm, the law office of John Phillips. I run the criminal defense side of the practice, and Mr. Phillips, along with a couple other associates, works the personal injury and wrongful death side. And then we obviously have the blog or the podcast, Courts and Sports, that John Phillips started back a few years ago, and I've managed to hop on and get on board with, which was started by John Phillips back several years ago when he started as a sports agent, and we've been able to carry that forward, talking everything sports and law.
So do y'all deal with a lot of sports or athletes or celebrities and stuff, or do y'all deal with pretty much everybody? I know, being in your industry, you have quite a variety that you can deal with there.
Yeah, certainly. And John's experience and our experience is mainly in the athletes coming out of college, not necessarily into the celebrities or anything of that nature. It's more just something that's of significant interest to both he and I. So. We try and get involved and stay involved as much as possible.
So you deal with a lot of college athletes or, situations where they get in trouble in school or, kind of off the clock, so to speak?
Right, yeah, around town. And my part of it is the criminal defense side, obviously. So if for the various athletes that do experience issues around town, we certainly try to help them out as much as possible and make sure not to ruin any of their eligibility or whatever the situation is with the school as well as the NCAA.
Well, how often do y'all see stuff that is just really kind of ridiculous, just that, somebody's being picked out just because of, people know who they are and, their status as an athlete that may be a college superstar or somebody who may be on the way to the pros or something like that?
Well, yeah, and what you see, obviously you saw it with the Jameis Winston situation, is everything that law enforcement and the state attorney's office ever does is put under a microscope. And even though they may be treating the athlete just like they would any other individual, if, it may appear that they're giving favorable treatment, so then they flip and do the opposite and kind of go overkill and end up prosecuting much harsher than they would a typical person because they don't want to have that appearance of going easy on them. So, yeah, it seems that simple situations can easily get blown out of proportion, which sometimes, obviously, they do.
Yeah, and it's you definitely get put under a microscope when your head sticks up above the crowd a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about this Supreme Court deal that was going on in New Jersey with the gambling that they wanted to legalize and stuff there.
Well, yeah, the U.S. Supreme Court just denied. What happened was that Governor Christie up in New Jersey had signed a law back in 2012 that allowed sports gambling throughout the state of New Jersey, and then the Big Four sports agencies, the NFL, NCAA, Major League Baseball, and the NHL, filed complaints against the governor, saying that it was a violation of federal law, that there was the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act that stated sports betting was illegal ever since 1992 on a federal level, and that they could not essentially try and get around that federal law. And so they challenged that. It was upheld, and so the state of New Jersey and Governor Christie had sought to appeal that decision to the United States Supreme Court, and they recently, as of a couple weeks ago, decided not to review the case, and therefore New Jersey at this point, the court upheld the ban on sports betting for New Jersey. So now they're left with some other options in terms of going forward and trying to legalize sports betting.
Now, why is it that it applies in somewhere like New Jersey, but when you can go to Vegas and you can go bet on all kinds of things in the sports world, from the score to, the who's going to score first, or what kind of score, what's it seems like there's different rules for everybody.
Yeah, well, the reason that it's set up that way is when the federal law was initially instituted back in 1992, it had what, for lack of better terms, a grandfather clause. And so what it did was allowed the states that had sports betting at the time to keep that sports betting. So, like, for instance, Nevada had full range of sports betting as of 1992, and it had it for quite some time. So they fell under the grandfather clause of that law. Delaware is another one, actually, that fell under the grandfather clause. But in Delaware, you can only bet on three-game parlays as opposed to individualized games, because that's what they had in 1992 when the federal law came into place. The other two states that had sports gambling at the time were, oddly enough, Montana and Oregon, who are able to maintain whatever they had back in 1992. But essentially it was saying if you can keep what you have, but nobody else can come up and do this from this point forward. So that's what prevented New Jersey from doing it moving forward. And then Delaware even tried to expand their sports gambling back a couple of years ago and were denied that opportunity as well.
So are they worried about people trying to fix games? And, I mean, I guess you could just as easily do it from Vegas as anywhere else, but I guess is the thought process that, okay, well, if there's a lot more of it, there's going to be a lot more game fixing, or, what's their biggest concerns there? And I guess what would your opinion be on the whole issue of sports, gambling in sports?
Yeah, the big four sports are worried about exactly that. The integrity of the game is what their argument is, and that by making sports betting legal, it would be much more pervasive and cause concerns as to the point shedding and fixing of games and things of that nature. But like you said, I mean, it's already legal in the state of Nevada. It's already, certainly, the offshore internet gambling sites are a multi-billion-dollar industry. So it's no secret that it's already pervasive in this country for sure, which, I think at the end of the day is going to end up hurting these sports entities by saying, well, you say that there's irreparable harm that's going to be caused by making sports betting legal. Well, we already have it legal. And so people can just go to Nevada and do that. Of course, their counter argument is going to be, well, it's only legal in certain places, and to have it legal everywhere is going to cause an issue. In my view, it should be a situation where the states are permitted to do what they see fit. And by that, I mean it should be allowed to be put on the ballot for each state and let the people vote. And if they vote to allow sports betting, then so be it, and have the states be kind of a experimental ground to find out how sports betting is really going to work and move forward, so that you can have a national policy that does account for the reality of the situation, which is, like I mentioned, the fact that it's already so pervasive that I don't know that they're really preventing the harm that they're seeking to prevent by keeping it illegal.
Right. Well, give us a little plug, I guess, for your podcast. Tell us about Courts and Sports real quick.
Yeah, Courts and Sports was a podcast started back a few years ago by John Phillips. It was originally, on the radio and also just an internet podcast. It talks about just general issues in sports and the law. You can click on the link. It's at www.knowthelawyer.com. It's KNOWTHELAWYER.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a link for the Courts and Sports podcast. And, we just try and talk about as many issues as possible that are out there as far as sports and the law. it's been a little bit on a hiatus due to some various things going on at the office, but it's certainly something that we maintain an interest in and certainly always pursue.
And how can people contact you?
Contact me directly. The criminal defense website for the firm is www.jaxarrest.com, and then our office phone number is easy to remember. It's area code 904 and then 444-4444.
That's a pretty good one. That's like those taxi cabs with the 555-5555 numbers on the side.
Right. Yeah, we wanted to make it easy enough so that you only have to see it once, and that way you can remember it going down the road.
Well, with the college players and stuff, do the schools normally come to y'all, or how do y'all get that relationship there?
No, in the past it's just been on an individual basis, just through knowing people in the community and things of that nature. So it's, and it's brought the firms that I've been with to various parts of the state. So it's, it's kind of like with everything else. It's all about who you know and the connections you have as far as that goes.
Do any of them carry over with you that maybe make the jump to the pros or anything, or how's that work?
Not as of yet. We have, I have had the privilege of having a pro athlete or two, but no, mainly it's the college level and that sort of nature. But of course, once they reach the professional level, chances are they're going to be in a different city or state, and so you're limited in that respect as far as representing them in the future.
Well, gentlemen, we're about to have to wrap it up for today, but any last thoughts, Chris Kidd?
That is some very interesting stuff. I definitely think that we'll have some kind of a follow-up on the Price of Business and maybe USA or U.S. Daily Review, a write-up on this. And why don't you give that information on where people can find the information on you and also the courts and sports again, real quick, Reid?
Yeah, the website is www.knowthelawyer.com. In the upper right-hand corner is the courts and sports, and that's the Law Office of John Phillips website.
Excellent. And Chris Kidd, tell us about you, buddy. Where can we find more information about you?
Really easy. If you know my name, Chris Kidd, just go to chriskidd.com. That's Kidd with two Ds. ChrisKidd.com.
This kid has double Ds. All right, folks, that's it today for The Price of Business. Stay tuned. We got lots more great stuff here at Business 1110 KTEK, and Kevin will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks. This is Sigmund Kramer signing off for The Price of Business.